Hi, this is Dave Chenault with SkyLite Systems, and in this video, I'm going to show you a great new tool we've just developed. It's called SP Solutions, and what it lets you do is create prepackaged solutions that run in SharePoint, and you can now easily install these solutions with their flows in just a few minutes. So I'm going to show you how we can take this prepackaged SharePoint-based Power App and Flow solution and move it into a new SharePoint site. This example is doing a lot of very interesting things. What it does is it has a parent item here in one list, and it has a document library in another list. I'm able to add in files using this add button, and a flow will kick off once I save this and strip off the file attachment and add it to this doc library. Also behind the scenes, a flow kicks off whenever I create a new item, and it will go in and create a folder to store all these files in. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this would work. How can I create a new SharePoint site and in 5 minutes have this application up and running? I'm going to put it on pause a few times while I set things up. Here we go. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and create a new site in SharePoint to hold this solution. So I'm going to go to my subsites, and I'm going to call this SP Solution 2, which is going to be a regular team site. So let's do that. And I'll give it the same name here. And let's go ahead and create that. Okay, it went ahead and created that team site, and if I look at the site contents, I'm going to see that it's a pretty basic team site. Now what I want to do is run our utility that's going to set up the necessary SharePoint lists and libraries. It's going to modify the zip files that we created based upon that last Power App that I showed you and the flows, and then we'll install those into Power App Flow, activate them, and then we'll have a solution ready to go. Okay, so here we are. Here's all the steps that you have to do. I'm going to put in the URL of that new site that I just created. So I'm going to grab the piece of it right here and go over to my tool called SP Solutions, and I'm going to put it in here along with logging in to set things up. Now I've got to be a site owner to do this. And I'm going to put in my password. I'm basically logging into SharePoint from this app, and it'll run through a bunch of scripts to create everything. It's also going to ask me where I want to put the zip files that it's going to create for importing into PowerApps and Flow. So I'll put them into this SP Solution 2 folder on my C drive. Now you can see here it's grinding away. It's doing all of the site updates where it's making new lists and doc libraries, and it's also updating those zip files for the new Flow and Power App that I'm going to install. And that's as long as it took. It took about a minute to do it. Now if I refresh the page here, you're going to see a bunch of new lists and libraries that the tool created behind the scenes. The next step is going to be going into Power Apps, and I'm going to import in that package that I just created. So I'll be right back. So here we are. I'm going to go ahead and upload that zip file that it created with our tool. And if I look at that, I've got it here in this SP Solutions folder on my C drive. And I had it put it in this SP Solution 2. And I know that's the Power App right there. I open it. And I'll make a few small changes to it before I do the import. So we'll let it upload. And all I've got to do is put in my name. It wants to know the context of the user that's going to be accessing the files. So let's go ahead and make a few small changes here. I'm going to update my workflow that's embedded in here with a new name. I'll call it SP2, SP Solution 2, so it has a unique name. I'll save that. I'm also going to pick myself as the context of the person that I want to work in, and I'm going to import it. It took about a minute. Now you can see that it's been imported in, everything's green. That's a good sign. Let's go ahead and open the app. We're going to make a couple of small changes and publish it to SharePoint. So when I import it in, I'm going to refresh the data sources, and I'm also going to make the people pickers able to do a search. There's a small issue with whenever you do the zip files, you have to just update those people pickers. So we'll go ahead and do that. It just takes a second. And you can just watch the steps I go through to activate this new solution that we've created. Notice the X's here. These are going through grabbing data. So if I just go to View Data Sources, and I'm going to refresh my data sources into this new SharePoint set of lists that I created, you'll see the little X's go away as I do that. And you can see where they're being used. I have one more to go. And then what I'm going to do is just go into this requester name here. I'm going to select the data card itself, and I'm going to select Allow Searching. I'm going to do the same thing on this next data card. These are two people pickers, and this is just a step I have to go through so the people pickers work in this new environment. So I go ahead now and hit Save, and I will publish this, and that solution has now been moved over into this new set of SharePoint lists that I just created. That's all it took. If we go in and take a look at it, I'm now in this SP Solution 2. That request list is where it installed. And if I say New, I'm going to see that I have that SharePoint based solution, if you will, into this new capability. So let's do that again. And now if I type in a few things here, I'm going to put in my name, and I'll put in another person. So when people pickers are working properly, I'm going to put in a comment and save it. Now before I do that, what I want to do is import those other two flows. I know there's two additional standalone flows. There's a built-in flow to this form, and that's already been imported, but I'm going to put in the two additional flows. I'll be right back. Okay, let's go ahead and import in those flows that we updated with our tool. And I just go to my import utility and flow. I select my package. And now it's over here in my solution 2, and there's two of them. There's this create folder and this create word. Let's start with the create folder. It'll take a minute to upload. And all I have to do on this one is just give the context of how it's going to operate. What's the username? So it'll take 1 second there to do that. And I just select my actions here. And I'm going to select Dave, me. And I'm also just going to put this name here. I'm just going to say package. I'll call it SP Solution 2 so I make sure it has a unique name. And I'll save it. The only reason I'm doing this is I'm doing a number of demos one after the other. So let's go ahead and import that. It just takes a second. And we'll do the same thing with the second workflow that I have to bring in. Okay, I can see that that first workflow came into flow fine, no problem at all. And the interesting to note is if I just open this up to show what's going on behind the scenes, what it does is it goes through and updates all of the URL references and also all the relative server references that are used to these new sites and lists. So you can see that our tool went through and updated all of the code behind the scenes in these flows so they work with our new SharePoint site and the new list that we created with our tool. So let's go ahead and let's import in the next flow that we've got. I know that last one is going to be for the Word file, so let's import that. I just select it again. It's in that folder that we created. It's called Create Word. Open it. It just takes a second. I'll do the same steps that I did last time. I'll give it a unique name, call it SP Solution 2 at the end, and also make sure the context is me. It should be ready to go here. So I'll go ahead and update that. I'll say SP Solution 2. And what I'll do is, as well as make myself the context of the user it's going to operate under. And I'll import it. It just takes a moment to do this one. And as soon as that's over, the app is done. It is ready to go. And we can start using this new solution that's SharePoint based with our tool. So it's done now. Let's go back over to that site and we'll put in a few last things and get it ready to go. Okay, we're back at that new site that we created, and I'm going to go to Site Contents again. And I know that it installed the app into the list called Request. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Request. And I'm going to create a new request now where we're going to run through all the steps. So this is a PO system, and what we're going to do is enter a new one. So this is a new PO, and I'll put in a couple of names. I'll put in Alan here. Say this is awesome. And what you're going to notice also is some of the pick lists came in populated as well. We can set all this up as well. And let's go ahead and save this. And what's going to happen behind the scenes as our workflow kicks off, it's going to take this text in this box and create a Word file out of it. That's one of the standalone flows. It's also going to create a folder behind the scenes for this purchase order, this request, where it's going to store all the folder items, all of the items we add to this PO in the doc library. We're back here at Flow just to show that those flows that we installed did run and they were successful. So you can see here, this is that SP Solution 2 that we installed. And we're also going to take a look here and we'll see that this is the Create a Word package. So the way to look at this now is to go back into this PO, and we should see a file here listed. I had to do a refresh to see it come up. So I went ahead and refreshed the solution list, and here's that Word file that it created for us. And if I just click, I can see that it actually did create a Word file from that text. So that's pretty cool. And that's not using the Word connector. That's some just straight HTTP request stuff. But let's go back in now and run through adding in a document. So I'll just say this is a new file. And I'll go ahead and pick a file type. I'll just make it Word because that's what it is. I'll attach a file to it. Let's go to, I know there's something here I can grab. I'll say this is cool. I'm going to save it. Now this is an embedded flow, and what it does a lot of tricky things. It strips out an attachment from a worker list, and then it moves that attached strip file into the doc library. This is actually a timer control that's running, and it's counting off to show us that it's running. It checks every 5 seconds, and it just gives the user some feedback on what's happening. We should see this close in a minute, and that file should be added, and it did. So that means that all of the flows, there's an embedded flow here, as well as the 2 standalone flows, and our application was installed and moved properly. It took us less than 5 minutes. This is a new capability we've built, and we're going to be bringing this to the market first as packaged applications, and then we're going to be selling those in AppSource around SharePoint. We'll probably also do some training things, and then finally we're going to open up the kit for other people that want to create similar SharePoint-based solutions like this and offer that probably in the marketplace for people that want to build out SharePoint-based PowerApp and Flow solutions that install into SharePoint. This is Dave Chenault with SkyLite Systems. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this interesting.